Welcome to our Managing Stress and Anxiety in a Crisis. And although we're going to be talking about general management of stress and anxiety in a crisis, I know that we're really going to probably focus in on some of the things that we're going through at this current moment. So first let me introduce myself. I'm Sylvia Stinson-Perez. I'm the director of the Older Blind Technical Assistance Center and the Vision Specialist Program at the National Research and Training Center on Blindness and Low Vision at Mississippi State University. And joining me today are two of my very good friends and colleagues, Sarah Clark, who is a licensed mental health counselor, and she is in Indianapolis, and Heather Tuck, who is a social worker and studying to be a vision rehab therapist, and she is in Brooksville, Florida. And I have known these ladies for a long time, and when I really think about stress management and coping, I couldn't find two better people to have with me on this webinar today. So thank you, Heather and Sarah, for being with us.
Thanks for having us.
Okay. So stress, anxiety, depression, those are things I think we're all thinking about these days. And I was hearing a podcast yesterday that was saying the level of anxiety and depression has risen significantly recently as we're going through this global pandemic. And of course, that's the case. And, although we know that there is good stress, and I think that we can find some good stress in this situation too, because stress helps us find our strengths. And so if we look at it like that, we're going to be able to find some good ways to cope with and manage the stress that we're going through. But stress can also have significant health, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual impacts on us that we really need to pay attention to. So we're hoping today that some of the things that we share, the tips that we share, and some resources we share will help each of you cope, and that you will maybe be able to pass these on to your clients. So our current stressor, this global pandemic, is affecting every aspect of our life. It's affecting how we live, how we work, how we socialize, how we shop, how we worship. It's truly affecting every aspect of our life. And we know that a lot of stress affects every aspect of our life, but I think that the major thing about this one is we have no idea when this one will end. And so that creates even more anxiety. So we want to just share some tips with you. And so I'm going to ask Sarah to get us started on sharing some tips. By the way, we will be posting a list at the end of this webinar. So Sarah, go ahead.
All right. So I'm going to share a few tips that I came up with that most people are going to be able to apply in their everyday lives. One of the biggest ones for everybody that I think is usually a challenge during really stressful times or times of crisis is getting good quality sleep. We're either not getting enough sleep or we're sleeping too much because we're just overwhelmed, but it might not even be good quality sleep. So when you are sleep deprived, you're more stressed. That's one of the side effects of sleep deprivation. But when you're stressed, you sleep less. So they kind of go in this cyclical pattern that's really detrimental. So prioritizing that is extremely important. You want to be able to set a regular bedtime, even though, everybody's schedules are turned upside down these days. make sure you're going to bed, getting ready for bed at the same time, and have a really relaxing bedtime routine, whatever that means for you. You know, everybody works a little bit differently, but you have to come up with a combination of things that are going to help your brain and your body relax before bed, whether that's, you know, doing a meditation or doing some stretching before bed, drinking some chamomile tea, listening to relaxing music. Anything like that is going to help improve how much sleep and the quality of sleep. It's never going to work well if you're just watching news all day or all evening and then trying to fall asleep. That's not a good formula. The next one is practicing being present focused. Most of us have probably heard of mindfulness at some point or another, but it's basically just being in the moment. That's it. Keeping your mind focused on whatever you're choosing to focus on at any given time. And it very much is a practice. And it's extremely important for reducing stress, anxiety, and depression, because it's literally impossible to be anxious or stressed when you're in the moment. The things that we're stressed about are future things, unknown things. So if we can train our brains to get back into whatever it is that we're intentionally trying to focus on, it reduces our stress immediately. It is a practice though. So if you've never done any kind of mindfulness activities, it's going to take a little while to get good at it. But even if you can control your thoughts for 4 seconds, that's enough to get started, and you'll just build on that. So there's plenty of tools out there in our resource list that we're going to share. There's a lot of different apps for meditation, mindfulness. You can find things on YouTube for grounding exercises, yoga, anything along those lines is going to help. The third one is adapt and modify as much as you can, as quickly as you can. During times of crisis, one of the things that we struggle with most is everything is different. We're lacking our sense of normalcy. And so if you can adapt your normal routines, modify, do whatever you can to create a new sense of normalcy, it will greatly reduce your stress level. That might mean, you know, figuring out different ways of going about things that you've already been doing, changing habits, changing routines around, but make sure you're focusing on keeping all of the things that were important to you and taking this time to eliminate the stuff that wasn't important, and focus on your emotional needs and how they're getting met. You know, one of the things people are talking about a lot now is isolation, but we're only being told to physically isolate ourselves, not actually emotionally isolate ourselves. So the sooner you can adapt and modify those things, the more comfortable you're going to be, the more normalcy you'll find. Fourth is, kind of going along with that last one, stay active as much as you possibly can. Be physically active, engage your body, engage your brain, find exercises to do. You might not be able to go to the gym the way you used to. You might not have the same free time that you used to because you're taking care of kids or working from home or whatever it is, but no matter what, you can find a way, even if it's just walking up and down the steps in your house or taking a quick walk, you can be active. And any kind of aerobic exercise is one of the best stress reducing things that you can do for yourself. Okay, and the fifth tip I have for everybody is how you talk to yourself is extremely important during times of high stress. And during this pandemic and any other times of crisis that you experience personally or globally, you need to stop and ask yourself positive questions, problem-solving questions. Things like, what can I do to make this situation better? What can I do that is within my control? How can I find positives in whatever it is that's going on? Because there's so many things that are outside of our control on a daily basis, just in everyday life, even when we're not going through something like this. So if you can figure out what are the aspects that you have control over now, it's going to eliminate or reduce anxiety, stress, all of those negative emotions that you're feeling, because you're then focused on things that you can actually make better and things that maybe already are really positive that you might not be paying attention to.
Those are some awesome tips. I know I'm using quite a few of those. So I'm going to provide 5 as well. So I'm going to start with number 1 is creating a daily routine. Get up at your regular time. And I did hear the other day, 8 o'clock is the new 7 o'clock. So I know people are getting up later, and that's okay. Just have some kind of routine. You know, we don't have to spend an hour doing our hair and our makeup and all of that now. So I get it, but we still need to get up. We need to have our daily shower. We need to brush our teeth, brush our hair, brush your hair, people. That's really important. And get dressed. You know, maybe you're not getting dressed with the clothes you would have worn to work, but at least get dressed. We were joking before the call that I have on a suit, but I am barefoot. So that's okay. I love not wearing shoes. So, but every day I'm getting dressed, not in a suit, honestly, but dressed, not in my pajamas, because it does make you feel better. It makes you feel more productive. And so really important. Make sure that you start work at a specific time. If you're working from home, have a schedule. Work your schedule that you normally work. Take breaks. Take a time for lunch. Stop work at a certain time and literally turn off your computer, put away your phone, whatever it is you need to do to leave work at work. And now your work might be at your dining room table. Mine's either at my dining room table or sitting on my deck outside, weather permitting. But at between 4:30 and 5 every day, I shut that down and I'm done. And that's really important for us to be able to separate those out. But we also need to build in time for fun, for relaxation, for exercise. So don't forget all of those things, and time for family. So number 2, and I think for me, this is a really big one. Spend time outside in nature. I'm really fortunate that I have an awesome deck that I can sit out on, and the weather here in Mississippi right now is amazing. I know some of my friends are getting snow, sorry, but we're really fortunate here because it is really beautiful out, and I love to just be outside. I think it helps lift our mood, our spirit, you know, gives you that very corny, but I'm going to say it, the sunny disposition. And, you know, so many studies show that the sun shine on you and just being in nature helps relax you. So that's a really important one. It also, by the way, helps you be more creative. So just want to say that. Number 3, eat healthy. Of course, when we're in times of stress, we want to turn to those comfort foods. And I know what my comfort foods are. I want to make macaroni and cheese. I want to eat brownies, but don't allow yourself to do that. I have this habit at work that I eat salad and fruit every single day for lunch. Now, I have not been able to accomplish that 100% at home because it just doesn't taste the same at home as it does at work for some reason, even though I make it. You know, eat healthy. Try to eat plenty of fresh fruits and vegetables. Drink a lot of water. We want to maintain our health, keep our immune systems really, really good when we're in times of stress, especially when there's a virus going around that we don't want to get and get sick. And we know that sugar and fat can also depress our mental abilities as well. So just keep that in mind. So eat healthy. So number 4, try learning new skills or developing some new interest. I can guarantee that we've all learned some technology skills, right? I'm telling you, I know that I have really learned some new technology skills that I have been saying I wanted to learn for quite a while, but now I was pushed to learn those new technology skills. So learn some new skills. There's there's a lot of great activities and interests that we could engage in. So thinking about, I mean, now we have to go virtual, book clubs, sewing groups, um, all kinds of things that we could be participating in now, fitness groups that are virtual. Now, finally, the one I'm going to share is get organized. And so I started doing this years ago, is that I would spend 30 minutes every Saturday just organizing. And I got my family involved, and we would spend 30 minutes and we'd have a project. And it wouldn't be the whole house. It would be a shelf in a closet, or a drawer, a junk drawer, or something like that. So get your family involved and start getting organized. You might find, and I don't want to say this and scare y'all, by the end of this pandemic and when we're allowed to go out, we might actually have our houses completely organized. But it can be a lot of fun for kids if you have kids at home, where they can pull out one of the activities, one of the organizing activities out of a little basket, and just then it makes it kind of a game for them. But make a list of all the things you'd like to organize. And think beyond just things in your house. It might be your paperwork, it might be your schedule, your email, so many things you could work on organizing if you have time. Now, a lot of us are just working more hours than we were before. I know that. So, but I think that a lot of these things that we're talking about help get your mind on other things. And that's one of the key things we're talking about. So Heather, will you share 5 tips with us?
Thank you, Sylvia, for giving me the opportunity to come in with a few tips of my own. So there's a lot of different things that we have decided to start doing and become creative in our abilities to perform tasks to the best of our abilities and kind of change our mindset a little bit. So my 5 tips that I have, number 1 is virtual meetups. You know, during times of social distancing, it can be very lonely, very isolating. And we want to make sure that not only that we are still being social, but that our family and our friends and our coworkers and our clients are still being very social. And in order to do that, we have to be very creative. So virtual meetups are a really nice way to be able to do that. So if we have a girls' night in where we get together with a few of our girlfriends and, you know, we're able to talk like we would if we were together, cocktail hours. If you are used to going to parties and having a good time with friends and coworkers, create a virtual cocktail party. That's always a great time. I've had some people who have done family reunions where they had 11 different families on one phone call on a Zoom meeting, and they had their family reunion. They didn't miss out, which is wonderful. Sunday night dinners, I think, is a wonderful way to reconnect with your families. And the best part about it is with the virtual meetups, it doesn't matter where you are. You can be across the country and still be able to be with your family. So virtual meetups are a wonderful way of being able to really be with still with family, still with friends, still with coworkers, but in a virtual setting. So number 2 I have is reach out to others. So what I mean by this is you are not alone. You are not the only one that's feeling this crisis and this anxiety and this stress. And so making a list of people that you haven't spoken with in a really long time is a fantastic way to be able to really reconnect with other people. Make a list of the people that you want to talk to. Check that list off. Talk to neighbors. Find out if anyone needs anything. Maybe they just need a listening ear. So reaching out to others is a wonderful way to really reconnect. Now, my number 3 is a very, very biggie, and it's very, very difficult for most of us because we want to know what's going on all the time. But number 3 is limit your news watching. limit your news listening. However it is you get your news. We all get notifications on our phones. We all get them on the computer. We're all home now, so we have access to watch the TV or listen to the TV all the time. So if we can turn that off and listen to the news maybe once in the morning, maybe once around 6 o'clock. Don't listen to it before you go to bed because that may not be a great thing to do. So, but limit your news watching. A lot of times we're rubberneckers. It's the same thing as when you see an accident and you want to watch it, not because it's a good thing, but because it's human nature to do that. So limit news watching. I cannot stress that one enough. Number 4, keep a reflective journal. So this is really important because we can talk all day long about limiting our stress and anxiety, but in reality, we're still going to be a little anxious, and we're still going to have that stress of, where's my next paycheck coming from? How am I going to get to the grocery store? What's going to happen? We're still going to have some of those stressors, but being able to purge your feelings and being able to understand it in a mindset where you have spoken it or you've written it, or however it is that you're going to do it, whether you do it on the computer, by print, however it is that you do it, even voice diaries or voice journals are good. So, but being able to get rid of all of that anxiety and purge it is a really great way to be able to sleep and be able to get really good sleep. And my final is set goals. So we're going through a global pandemic right now. This will end. At some point, this will end. And we're going to have to move on with life. And being able to set goals once we get on with life and start moving again and start being with each other again, it's a really good way to think positively and think in the future. You know, right now we have a lot of time to think about ourselves, think about our families. So this is a great way to be able to set goals, whether those goals are getting your reading list done, making a plans for a vacation, getting back in touch with your fitness goals, getting back in touch with your family. Whatever your goal is individualized, but the one thing you don't want to do is overextend yourself in a goal that is not attainable, because your goal should not stress you out more. Your goal should motivate you. So those are my 5 tips for creating a less stressful environment for yourself and your loved ones.
Thank you, Heather. And you bring up a great point. We are not saying that these tips are going to eliminate your stress, because I don't think that there's anyone alive today who doesn't have some level of anxiety and stress, because we're all in a different situation. Stress is nothing more than a reaction to change. And we have changed everything about our lives right now. And so we are going to experience stress. And so what we're talking about is how to cope more effectively with that. And so thank you, both Sarah and Heather, for making that point really come alive. So I'm just going to add 3 more that after we had talked that really came to mind that I think are really important for us to share. And so the first one is laugh every day. It's tough to find things to laugh about right now, but we need to find some way to laugh. We need to either listen to something funny, watch something funny. Some of these, when we talk with friends, there's just no way not to laugh. And I just always remember growing up hearing, sometimes you have to laugh or you'll cry. And there's so much truth to that. So find a way to laugh every day. The second one is to find a way to be thankful for something every day, because we do have things that we can be thankful for every day. Those of us who are still healthy can be thankful for that. Those of us that still have jobs can be thankful for that. If we reach out and help someone else who is struggling, we can be thankful that we had the opportunity to help someone. And my final one is pray and activate your faith, because I think that can really provide a lot of strength to us. So we provided some tips on coping, and as I said, we'll share that handout in a little bit. But I asked Sarah to talk about some of the signs of clinical anxiety and depression, because we know that there are people who these tips are not going to be enough. They're not going to be able to cope because their situation is just overwhelming, and we all handle stress in a different way. So Sarah, will you share some tips with us?
There's a big difference for people, and I get in the habit of doing this too, but we use the term stress and anxiety interchangeably in our society. But they're very different things. What most people experience on a regular basis is stress, and anxiety is a very heightened level of stress that is interfering in your ability to function in different areas of your life. And I'm going to be sharing some different symptoms that you can pay attention to, either if it's for yourself, if it's for a family member, a friend. For those of you that are service providers in our field, you can give clients a heads up on what to look for, or give them some resources if you feel like they might be exhibiting some of these symptoms or telling you about some of these symptoms. But there are a few, I'm not going to go into all of them because that would be a very long webinar, but some of the most common ones are problems with sleep. Either you're sleeping too much or too little. You know, you're falling asleep and every few hours you're waking up, or for a lot of people, they fall asleep fine and then they sleep for 4 or 5 hours and they're wide awake and don't know why. That would possibly be an anxiety symptom. If your appetite is affected, that's another thing to pay attention to. If you're eating a lot more than usual, or you're not eating much at all, if you're feeling extremely, nauseous or uncomfortable after eating, anything along those lines where your appetite or your eating habits have changed, that might be a symptom of either anxiety or depression. And then some just thoughts and how you're feeling are usually some of the other ones that we need to focus in on. So when we're feeling overwhelmed, we tend to isolate ourselves. We tend to withdraw. We tend to stay inside our own heads rather than reaching out and doing all the things that we would normally be doing, talking to the people that we would normally be talking to. And that is a really good indicator. If you're not doing the activities that you normally do, if you're not acting like yourself, you know, if you notice any personality changes, significant swings in mood. And then this is probably one that only the individual can tell for themselves, is what are the general trend of your thoughts? Are you feeling anxious pretty much all day, every day, and thinking about things that are contributing to that? Are you thinking about things that are negative most of the day, all day? You know, those kinds of things are not only symptoms of anxiety or depression, but will give you a good indicator of the significance or the severity. Because when we're talking about a diagnosable disorder in either of these categories, it's determined by how much it's impairing your ability to function. So just feeling a little bit stressed, just wondering like how things are going to turn out, what's going to happen over the next week, that's not a symptom. But if you're unable to function, if you're unable to have social interactions, unable to focus on activities, focus on your work, if you're unable to participate or contribute to any of like the hobbies or things that would normally be easy for you, that's an impairment in your ability to function. And same with going back to the eating and sleeping. Any impairment in those areas would be significant also. And just to note, some people, because everybody experiences these things different, and there's a very long list of potential symptoms. Some people don't feel sad, they don't feel depressed, but they're feeling different sensations in their body. And that can be an indicator. You know, general aches and pains are sometimes a symptom of depression. Upset stomach, issues with like symptoms side, kind of like acid reflux, if you've never had that before, might be an indicator that you're extremely anxious. And then other physical indicators are, what is your body doing? What is your body feeling like? You know, we all know we have a sign or a tell when we're extremely stressed. And most people, it's their shoulders start creeping up to their ears. They just keep, the more stressed you get, the higher they get. For other people, they start feeling tightness in their chest. For other people, it's the stomach. It's different for everybody, but you know your own tells. And if you talk to somebody else, they can probably tell you their own. And if those start getting really severe, if it goes from just feeling like your chest is a little tight to feeling like there's a heavy weight on your chest or it's harder to breathe, that's a sign that it's gone from stress to anxiety and potentially even into extreme anxiety, which might be a panic attack. So you want to watch out for all of those things, the things your body's telling you, the things your mood is telling you, what your thoughts are on a regular basis throughout the day. And those will be some pretty good indicators if you're trying to watch out for this in yourself or pay attention to it for the people that are around you. And then to go into how do you deal with that? You know, what are some techniques you can use if you are exhibiting any of those symptoms? Because if you haven't already been diagnosed by a professional with a anxiety disorder or major depressive disorder, then you might not know what the go-tos are. And so we're going to go into some treatment options, but there are some techniques and things that you can do on your own, changes in habits, that will absolutely help with those symptoms. And these are going to be easy to remember because almost every single one of them are the exact opposite of what the symptom is. That's one of the interesting things about mood disorders is the symptom, if you flip it, is usually what you need to develop to feel better, to eliminate that symptom, to eliminate the disorder, or at least treat the disorder. So going back to just a few of those examples, if you are, let's say, thinking about stressful things, worrying, just constantly worrying, wondering about all the what ifs, and that's just your daily thought process and you feel like you're spiraling. The way to work on that symptom is to find a mindfulness practice and take back control of those thoughts. And if you can purposefully, intentionally focus your thoughts on something positive or something neutral, then it's going to prevent you from being able to worry on a consistent basis. Same with isolation. If you're depressed, if you're dealing with an anxiety disorder, the temptation, what you feel like doing is isolate. But you can't go with what you feel like doing when you have any kind of disorder that's impairing your ability to function and cope. So you have to force yourself to get out, be social, sometimes even be a little more social than you would normally be. And obviously that looks a little different for everybody now. You're not going to be hanging out at a bar with friends, but you can use some of Heather's suggestions. You can find some other activities on your own, use technology, but reach out. If you're feeling depressed, if you're feeling isolated, one of the best things you can do is try to stay connected even when you don't feel like it. Because once you start doing it, you feel less isolated, you feel less depressed, you feel less anxious. So take all of those symptoms that we talked about, any of the experiences or any of the symptoms that you're experiencing or that somebody else might be experiencing, and try to invert them. Do what would be the opposite. If you're struggling with eating, you're just too anxious, you're having trouble, you have to push yourself even if you're not hungry. You have to come up with a way to eat smaller meals, but changing your habits to remedy these things is one of the only techniques that's going to be effective in terms of self-care, things that you can apply on your own. And then for actual treatment, there are quite a few options. And one of the benefits, I think one of our participants mentioned this before we got started today, is that because of this pandemic, healthcare, mental health care, counseling, everything is becoming more accessible if you're willing and able to use the technology. So people that used to live, or not used to, people who live in rural environments who used to have trouble finding good providers or finding a provider that they wanted to work with, has a much bigger pool of people to choose from, because the majority of doctors, psychiatrists, counselors, social workers, psychologists are all doing telehealth. So typically you'd have to go into an office. There might be a long wait time to get in to see somebody new, but with the changes in regulations and restrictions, you can see anybody within your state through telehealth. And actually some of the states have even lifted those restrictions about seeing people across state lines. So if you're in one of those states, you can see anybody in the country you want to. And doing a session by phone or by video might feel a little awkward at first, but I've been doing this for quite a while, probably a couple years. Even before all of this started, I had been doing a lot of my sessions by phone or video because of working with people with disabilities. Transportation is a typical barrier. And there is not any difference in effectiveness of treatment, whether it's in person or through telehealth. It just takes a little time to adjust and get comfortable with that. So don't think that you can't seek out treatment. Doctors are still prescribing medicines. They're just doing it through other means than you going into the office. Therapists are still seeing people, and there are a lot of resources out there to help you find assistance. There's some states have their own hotlines that'll connect you with people. There are crisis hotlines. There are directories that you can search through online, like Psychology Today. If you're not familiar with any of it, I would say just start with a Google search or 211 in your local area, because we have so many people here from so many different places. It would be cumbersome to list all the different options for different states. But those are a few, and we're going to put together a resource list and add to that so that you guys will have a few options that you can reach out to.
Actually, we have a resource list that we'll be sharing before the webinar ends that Sarah put together, and then we had some other people in our office add to as well. So thank you so much, Sarah. And so next, I asked Heather and Sarah to share with us some specific things that they're doing to manage their stress at this time. Because I thought that it might be interesting to, we all have these things that we say, oh, you should do this. But at the end of the day, what are we doing? And so Heather, what are you doing to manage your current stress?
So one of the ways that I start my day every day is about 6 o'clock. I have my first cup of coffee, and I will call my mom, and we will have coffee together. And that's just how I start my day. I enjoy talking with my mother, seeing what's going on. She lives in a different state, so we have a lot of things to catch up on every day. And it's become kind of a routine, which I think is a great thing too, because it keeps me on track. It keeps me waking up at a normal time that I would if I was going into the office. It starts my day, and I really enjoy it. I look forward to it every day. I'm doing virtual meetups. I'm actually in the process of building one right now, so for a girls' night in. So it'll be a great way for all of us to be able to get together and laugh and take our minds off of things. I'm also doing some reading. and really learning a lot of new technology. That's one of the other things that I'm doing right now too. So that's how I'm staying busy, and really kind of changing the way that I'm thinking on a daily basis. So I enjoy it.
Okay. Well, I found for myself, the physical stuff seems to be the most effective. So I've developed a couple new habits, and the first one is just fun, and it's a great stress reliever. I've started doing it more and more frequently. Is I have a happy playlist with just a whole bunch of songs that make me happy and are fun to dance to, and I blast it through the speakers and dance around the house. And it started out with just a morning thing because, I mean, for a lot of people, I've heard, we're busier now than we actually were before all of this started.
Yep.
So it started as just a morning thing. Now sometimes it's a between sessions thing. So it just depends on the day and how much stress there is. But that's been a great one for me. And then I've also switched up my routine a little bit and started going to bed a little earlier, waking up a little earlier so I can start my day with an hour of yoga and meditation. And it took me a while to find some videos that I liked following along with and apps for meditation that I liked, because I already had my classes that I was going to, but as quickly as I could, I adapted. I was following my own instructions. When I tell people these things all day long, I feel guilty if I don't take my own advice. So I adapted. I found a couple videos online that I can go through and get up every morning, and first thing before I do anything else is I do at least 30-40 minutes of yoga and then about 20 minutes of meditation, and then start the rest of my day. And that's been a great stress reliever.
So what I am doing, so I have to say that I kind of like solitude. And I know that a lot of people who know me are like, but you're such an extrovert. And if you really know me, you know that I'm not really an extrovert. So I actually am kind of enjoying the solitude. Now, I don't have complete solitude because my husband is here. And so I will say that that's one thing, is we all have to give the people who we are isolated with a little bit of a break right now, because I think we're all doing the absolute best we can to deal with the situation. So so what am I doing? And I'm a little bit of a multitasker, so I was kind of laughing. Sarah's going to laugh when she hears this one thing I do. So I love to be outside in nature, and I love, so every day I walk and I make sure I am keeping up the same number of steps that I was getting prior to this. And so fortunately, like I said, I have a nice deck I can be outside walking on. It's nice weather, or I can go walking in the neighborhood. So I love doing that. And usually while I'm walking, I'll either pray or read a book or listen to a podcast, or, well, okay, sometimes I'm in a meeting on a webinar, not today. So sometimes you might catch me actually walking while I'm listening to a meeting. So I will admit to you that I do yoga most every day, but here's the part that's really bad, is that I usually am listening to a book or a podcast while I do it. So I'm not sure how mindful that is, but it helps me. And so I love reading. I am cooking more, and which I'm enjoying that as well, because I think it is important that we keep eating healthy. So those are some of the things that I am doing. I will also say that I am really making an effort to keep in touch with people who are important to me and people I love, either by text or phone call or whatever, FaceTime. So I think that's a really important thing. So Sarah, people want to know what your happy list is, your happy playlist. That's funny.
Maybe I can put a list together and share that
Okay,
afterwards.
she'll put you a list together. Okay. So I think we're all doing a lot of things, and we'll open it up now for a little Q&A and see if anybody has any questions. And also maybe if anybody has any ideas that we didn't bring up.
I enjoy using the Calm app. I don't know if anybody's ever tried that before.
Yeah, that one is great. I use that every morning now.
And I think that's actually on Sarah's list. Catherine, if you want to go ahead and post those 2 documents. Yeah, that's actually on your list.
And for anyone who has children, my girls love the Moshi Twilight.
Is that an app?
Yes.
Okay.
There's stories and
Oh, nice.
all sorts of, I don't know. I haven't really listened to it. They listen to it on their own, but they love it, and it puts them right to sleep. It actually put my mom to sleep when they slept over there a couple months ago, and she has a very hard time relaxing and sleeping at night. She fell asleep in bed with them listening to it. So
That's cool.
something to check out.
This is Catherine. I was muted. I was trying to say when y'all were asking if there were any ideas. There have been a couple of great ideas that have been showing up in the chat.
You want to read them?
Sure. One person mentioned, let's see, that what I think Stephanie mentioned that tomorrow they're to activate the faith, like you were speaking of. There's a worldwide day of fasting and prayer relief for the pandemic tomorrow. Others have said, Stephanie also said she's working harder to avoid double booking herself. Somebody just had a great game. They said his group has a game of creating playlists with themes and sharing them, such as for the pandemic, such as The Temptations, Can't Get Next to You, or Alone Naturally. So that sounds fun.
Which is a great way to get that laughter going.
And spending time with dogs, cats, children, family, of course, organizing. There's one.
Hey, Catherine, I like how dogs and cats came before children.
Well, they're easier sometimes. One person also mentioned that Jen said that she wakes up every day and writes down 3 things she's grateful for. If the day goes downhill, then she goes back and refers to her list. I really like that.
That's nice. Okay. Well, I think we all have a lot of really great strategies. And I'm going to go back to what Sarah said, is that we have these strategies, we know these strategies, and we have to now use them. And maybe just going back to something that Heather said about setting the goals, is maybe just setting a goal every day that you're going to use 1 or 2 or the whole list of all these tips. Pick some that work for you to really work on. Maybe take that list and assess, okay, where am I at on this? Am I eating healthy? Am I getting enough water? Am I getting enough sleep? Am I connecting with people? Am I reaching out? Am I finding ways to relax? So look at that list and identify, hey, am I struggling because I'm not working on some of these things? So,
Sylvia, can I add something?
Of course.
I just want to say, how many opportunities have we gotten in our lives to self-reflect for this long? And, this is something I'm not sure we will ever experience again.
Let's hope not.
Right. But it's given, one of the things that I mentioned in my support group yesterday for adjustment is think about a positive thing that you can do for yourself. What is something that you can do to improve how you're thinking or what you're doing or your quality of life? Right now we're on pause, and sometimes we have a little bit more time to think about that. And instead of worrying about what's happening right now, maybe we can take that opportunity to improve on ourselves. Yeah. So I just wanted to add that in there.
Yes, thank you, Heather. And I think she's right. We have an opportunity to work on ourselves and to be compassionate with ourselves. and to realize what our real strengths are and what the strengths of those around us are, and also to help others build those capacities. So I encourage you all to do that. Share this resource, share these resources, these ideas with your family members, your friends, your coworkers, your clients. Share them so that, you know, it can help other people as well. We're going to be posting this webinar probably for certain by Monday. Usually we have it by the end of the day, so we'll just see. And the handout, Catherine's going to be posting a couple.
We're having a little bit of trouble getting those documents into the chat pane.
Okay.
But hopefully I can get that in there. If not, I can send the participants the documents directly.
Okay, or we'll post them on our site. If you guys want to email me, you can.
Emily's typing me the directions right now. If they would like to
Awesome.
access the documents, if they'll give me a 1 minute.
Awesome. So she's putting how to access the documents, or you can put my email in there too, Emily, if you want, and you can email us to get them. So I want to thank Sarah and Heather, who, as I said, are dear friends of mine, but are also brilliant women too, who I think have provided some great information today. And it's been such a pleasure to hang out with them on this webinar. And so do you ladies have anything final to say before I wrap it up? Heather?
I don't think so. I just want to say that self-reflection, I think, is big in what I'm doing right now, and you know what I'm also guiding my clients towards, and my children. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to be able to share my thoughts and tips in this webinar.
Okay.
I have a question.
I'll look forward to that girls' virtual happy hour.
There was
I have a question.
Okay.
Yes, I'm attending this seminar by phone and I don't see any of the web things that you guys are posting. Is there some way I can get access to that?
I haven't posted them yet. I'm having a little problem with the Zoom attachment in the chat box. But yes, I will send these to every participant via email if I can get that to work before the meeting's over. This is Catherine, by the way.
Or
Thank you, Catherine.
If you don't have you can get our email on our website, www.oib-tac.org. You can connect with us there and we can send them to you directly. Sarah,
That would
probably
be the best way, because I don't have everyone's email. Some participants are people that we don't have their email. So if you would like a copy of the resource attachment and the ways to relieve stress attachment that we've been speaking about, if you'll just email OIB-TAC, I will send those to you.
And we can send them out over the
so
chapter 2. We'll send them out over the chapter 2 listserv as well. Sarah,
Absolutely.
any last minute words from you?
Just thank everybody for being here, and thanks Sylvia for having me. I think this is an unusual time for everybody, and this was a good reminder to take a breath and regroup and maybe start looking at things in a different way, because there can be a lot of positives, a lot of growth, a lot of resiliency that can be built out of a time like this.
Thank you. And I want to thank everyone who attended today. It was delightful to have you on. And I want to leave you with a Helen Keller quote. And it is, "The most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen or touched, but are felt with the heart." And right now, there is so much of the world we can't really see because we can't get out there. Many of us can't see either. But we can't touch the rest of the world. But there's so much we can experience through just really thinking about, reflecting, and self-reflection, and the positive things that we can find out of this situation, like building our resiliency, like helping others. So thank you so much, and we appreciate all of you, and We'll talk to you next webinar. Bye.
And remember to email me at OIB-TAC if you'd like these documents, or check the listserv.